Hello and welcome to Classic Country Backstories. I'm Colleen Gallagher. Jeannie Seely was a trailblazer in the country music industry. She broke norms and paved the way for many female country entertainers that have succeeded her. This episode has been in the works for a while. For probably a year and a half, I've been working with Jeannie's team to interview her, but it just didn't work out. First, her husband, Gene, became ill, and Jeannie was taking care of him. Then he passed in September of 2024. Jeannie was having health problems as well. Despite several emails being passed back and forth between myself and her folks, the timing never worked out and Jeannie's health continued to decline. Then on Friday, August 1st, 2025, Jeannie Seely passed. So here's the episode of the legendary Jeannie Seely. Nashville, Tennessee, country music capital of the world, home of the Grand Ole Opry, where singers and dreamers come seeking stardom. Join me as we learn about the lives and careers of those who built this town on Classic Country Backstories. Born Marilyn Jean Seely, July 6, 1940, in Titusville, Pennsylvania. She was the youngest of 4 children to parents Leo and Irene Seely. She was raised in a 2-story farmhouse off a dirt road just outside Townville, a community of about 300 people in the northwest corner of Pennsylvania. Jeannie found music early in her life through her parents. Her father, Leo, was a steel mill worker in Titusville, but he loved to play banjo and call square dances. She said, "I grew up in a time when all the neighbors gathered together to help each other get the hay in. It seemed likely everybody in the country played guitars and fiddles, and when we got together, there was always picking and singing." Irene and Jeannie would sing every Saturday morning while baking bread together. The family listened to the Grand Ole Opry on WSM 650 radio. When Jeannie was just 11, she began singing on a Saturday morning radio program on station WMGW out of Meadville. By the age of 16, she was performing on television station WICU in Erie. As a teenager, she recalled sitting in her parents' car eating popcorn and listening to the Grand Ole Opry while her parents played cards at home with friends. She also attended country music shows at a place near Franklin called Hillbilly Park, where she would see performers such as Bill Monroe and Ralph Stanley. She said, "I still have 8x10 photos I bought and had autographed by stars like Gene Shepard, Little Jimmy Dickens, Wilma Lee, and Stoney Cooper." She added, "I was very blessed to later become friends with those Opry legends." Throughout high school, she was a cheerleader and continued singing at local talent contests, as well as performing around throughout Northwest Pennsylvania. After graduating high school in 1958, she worked for 3 years at the Titusville Trust Company as a stenographer and later as the bank auditor secretary. During this time, she also attended night classes at the American Institute of Banking in Oil City. She continued to sing locally at clubs like the Elks and American Legion. Then finally, at 21, she packed her car and moved to Los Angeles. Initially, she took a job at a Beverly Hills bank, but after a year, left the job to go to work for Liberty and Imperial Records as a secretary for half the money she was making at the bank. Now that she had a foot in the door in the music business, she began writing songs for 4-Star Music. She became a regular act along with an unknown Glenn Campbell on the Hollywood Jamboree television show. As a result of Jeannie's songwriting, she received a recording contract with Challenge Records. She had a couple regional hits and she toured the West Coast. She received the Most Promising Female Artist Award in the Country and Western Academy, which would later become the Academy of Country Music. Jeannie met Hank Cochran, a songwriter, who urged Seely to move to Nashville. She finally made the move in the fall of 1965 after being encouraged by Dottie West, who recorded one of her songs. When Jeannie moved to Nashville, all she had was a Ford Falcon and $50 to her name. Ironically, within a month, she was hired to replace Norma Jean on The Porter Wagoner Show. At first, Jeannie Seely was turned down by every record label in town. She finally got her big break when Monument Records offered her a recording contract. On March 12, 1966, she went into the studio and recorded Don't Touch Me, written by Hank Cochran. Shortly after release, it entered the charts where it remained for 5 months. The song reached number 2 on the Billboard chart, where it remained for 3 weeks. It went to number 1 on Cashbox and Record World charts. It was also a crossover hit on the national pop charts. Of the song, Seely said, "I actually helped write the bridge because at the time, Hank was drinking and eventually he couldn't hold the guitar. So I took the guitar and I'm like, is this what you're hearing? So I pretty much wrote the bridge on it." On May 28, 1966, she made her first appearance on the Grand Ole Opry. She received Most Promising New Artist awards that year from all national trade publications, including Billboard, Cashbox, and Record World. On March 2, 1967, the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences honored Jeannie with the 1966 Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance by a Female. This was only the third country artist to ever receive the award. Jeannie found herself traveling from coast to coast for her own appearances, forcing her to leave Porter Wagoner's show as she gained more popularity and success. In September of 1967, a lifelong dream of Jeannie Seely became a reality when she became a member of WSM's Grand Ole Opry. It was an emotional night. Her parents came from Pennsylvania to attend the event. The Ryman Auditorium, often referred to as the Mother Church of Country Music, was home of the Opry when Jeannie was inducted. While the building was hot in the summer and drafty in the winter, Jeannie said there was a magic to the Ryman. She recalled sharing a dressing room, which was actually the ladies' room, with Gene Shepard, Minnie Pearl, Dolly Parton, and Barbara Mandrell. On June 15, 1969, Jeannie Seely married songwriter Hank Cochran in Renfro Valley, Kentucky. Cochran composed such hits as Make the World Go Away, She's Got You, I Fall to Pieces, The Chair, and Oceanfront Property. The marriage was Jeannie's first and Hank's fourth. In 1969, she partnered up with Jack Green to record Wish I Didn't Have to Miss You, which catapulted to the top of the charts and launched one of the most successful duos in country music history. Jeannie and Jack toured together for over 10 years, performing for audiences around the world. On March 16, 1974, after 31 years at the Ryman, the Grand Ole Opry moved to the new 4,400-seat Opry House on the grounds of Opryland Theme Park. Then President Richard Nixon was present and said of Jeannie Seely, "Some girls have looks but can't sing. Others can sing but don't have looks. Jeannie Seely's got 'em both." The quote subsequently appeared in newspapers across the country. Jeannie has done much to change the place of women in country music. She is widely recognized for changing the image of female country entertainers. She was the first to wear a miniskirt on the Opry stage. She said she was even called to the office about that one. A string of hits in the late 60s and early 70s earned Seely the title Miss Country Soul. Marty Robbins called her one of the great stylists of our time. She made frequent appearances on Glenn Campbell's Good Time Hour and Hee Haw, and That Nashville Music. She placed more than a dozen singles on the Billboard country charts over a 13-year period, from 1966 through 1978. Working with distinguished record producers Fred Foster and Owen Bradley, she recorded over a dozen albums on Monument, Decca, and MCA Records. As an awarded BMI songwriter, Jeannie has had songs recorded by Dottie West, Merle Haggard, Connie Smith, Ray Price, Willie Nelson, Ernest Tubb, Little Jimmy Dickens, Hank Williams Jr., and Hall of Famer Farron Young. He took her autobiographical composition, Leaving and Saying Goodbye, to number 1 on the country charts. Other artists recording Jeannie's songs range from Irma Thomas, the soul queen of New Orleans, to Rhonda Vincent, the queen of bluegrass, as well as from Tex Williams to Chris Ledoux and Boyz II Men to Seal. Jeannie traveled throughout the Far East and Europe on military tours and served 2 years as the host of her own Armed Forces Network show. Around 1975, Jeannie and Hank built a home on a 77-acre ranch in Hendersonville, Tennessee. In 1977, Jeannie was involved in a near-fatal car accident in which she suffered multiple injuries. You know, it sounds cliche, but it's true that your perspective changes when you have a close call, she reflects. What you took for granted, you come to appreciate more. It was with the help and support of best friend Dottie West that Jeannie was able to recover and get back on her feet. After a decade of marriage, Jeannie Seely and Hank Cochran divorced in 1979. Cochran died of pancreatic cancer July 15, 2010, at the age of 74. During the early 1980s, Jeannie toured with Willie Nelson as his opening act. She appeared in Willie's movie Honeysuckle Rose and sang on the soundtrack. In the 1980s, Jeannie became the first female to regularly host segments of the Grand Ole Opry. This began on January 19, 1985, when she was asked to be a last-minute fill-in for Del Reeves, who was stuck in a rare Nashville snowstorm. Seely also starred in several major stage performances. She played Gene Shepard's daughter and Lorrie Morgan's mother in a country musical called Taking It Home. In 1988, she portrayed Miss Mona in a sold-out run of The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. The following year, she accepted a non-musical role as the lead character in Everybody Loves Opal. For 3 months, Jeannie portrayed the role of Louise Seeger during a successful run of Always, the Patsy Cline musical in Atlantic City. In the 1990s, Jeannie played Danny Shirley's mom on Confederate Railroad's video Trashy Women and also appeared in Brad Paisley's video Wrapped Around. In 1988, Seely wrote and published her own book, Pieces of a Puzzled Mind, with witty phrases. These were later to be known as Seelyisms. One example of this was, "Country music has made so many of my dreams come true," Jeannie wrote in the book. "I just wish someone would have warned me about the nightmares." Throughout the 80s and 90s, she made frequent appearances on shows like Nashville Now, Crook and Chase, Music City Tonight, Grand Ole Opry Live, You Can Be a Star, Family Feud, and Primetime Country. She was also a regular host on Opry Backstage, where she interviewed up-and-coming acts as well as major stars. Jeannie Seely also entertained at the Grand Ole Opry Cruise, Country's Family Reunion, and Larry's Country Cruise, and the Country Music Cruise. And for several summers, she performed at the Dollywood theme park. She was part of a successful overseas tour with the Grand Ladies of the Grand Ole Opry, as well as her own tours of Ireland in 2008 and 2009. Jeannie performed alongside friends Jan Howard and Rita Coolidge in a motion picture starring Faye Dunaway called Changing Hearts. Over the period of 3 years, Jeannie and fellow country singer Helen Cornelius starred in successful runs of the musical production Could It Be Love, including a performance at the historic Ryman Auditorium. On November 20th, 2010, Jeannie married Nashville attorney Gene Ward. At one time, he represented artists like Webb Pierce, Ernest Tubb, Lefty Frizzell, and Farron Young. Since the early 1990s, Jeannie Seely lived near the Grand Ole Opry in a comfortable house along the Cumberland River. She lost her home, car, and most of her personal belongings in May 2010 when floods devastated the Nashville area. Jeannie and Gene escaped in a pickup truck carrying what belongings they could and leaving some valuables behind. The house was filled with 3 feet of water. "You can either laugh about it or you can cry, and I don't feel like crying," she said in a performance shortly after losing her home. She decided to rebuild and remain in the area she loved. In 2018, Jeannie was inducted into the Nashville Music Walk of Fame. She also began her Sirius XM radio program, Sundays with Seely, in May of that year on Willie's Roadhouse channel. The show debuted on Memorial Day weekend. The first show aired on Sunday, May 27th. Jeannie's recording spanned from her top 10 Billboard album, Seely Style, to her most recent album on Curb Records titled An American Classic. That project includes her third duet with friend Willie Nelson, as well as collaborations with Bill Anderson, Lori Morgan, Vince Gill, Rhonda Vincent, Ray Stevens, Steve Warner, Waylon Payne, and the Whites. Jeannie's singles, If You Could Call It That, and So Far So Good, appeared on the Music Row national charts in 2021 and 2022, an incredible feat for an artist in her 80s. My husband and the producer of this channel, Jim Gallagher, had the honor of backing Jeannie Seely on drums at the Plummer Family Theater just outside Farmington, Missouri, somewhere around 2018. Of that performance, Jim said that Jeannie was great to work with and put on an amazing show along with her piano sidekick, Tim Atwood. Country music has a history that is deeply rooted in values, patriotism, and lyrics that tell the truth about life. Jeannie Seely has exemplified those examples through her performances, through her songwriting, and through her efforts to give back. Throughout her career, she assisted in raising funds for numerous organizations such as Music Health Alliance, the Opry Trust Fund, and the Nashville Musicians Emergency Relief Fund. On the Opry stage in October 2022, she was surprised by a proclamation and honorary lifetime membership to the Nashville Musicians Union. She was only the third individual to receive that status after Glenn Campbell and Charlie Pride. Jeannie continued to make appearances such as the 2022 CMA Awards. The following year, she was given the Joe Talbot Award for her outstanding leadership, unwavering commitment, and dedicated contribution to country music's traditions and values. On March 16th, the Grand Ole Opry commemorated its 50th anniversary at the Opry House. Jeannie stunned the crowd, showing up on the stage with a midriff-bearing outfit, which was an iconic replica of the one she wore during her first performance at the new venue. She even created her 1970s hairstyle. That night, Jeannie exclaimed, "There's really no way I can express my appreciation for this event, but to know the Opry finally got a home of her own, and that I have been fortunate enough to share it for 50 years, is one of the most joyful things in my life and career." That night, she graced the audience by singing "Don't Touch Me," which she sang at her first performance at the Opry House in 1974, along with the self-penned song "Who Needs You." In July 2024, Seely released Suffer Time for streaming and digital downloading. It was accompanied by a music video and a 40-minute documentary, which can be seen on Jeannie's YouTube channel. The song was recorded at RCA Studio B, where Jeannie's first Nashville session took place. The song was written by Dottie and Bill West, and Dottie recorded it as an album cut in 1966. Seely's recording session was produced by Steve Warner. She exclaimed, "We pulled it down to country blues and then decided to record it at the historic RCA Studio B, where Dottie herself recorded." Also, in July of 2024, Jeannie's hometown of Townville, Pennsylvania, unveiled signs in the town that reads, "Home of Jeannie Seely." Following Jeannie's 5,381st performance at the Grand Ole Opry in September of 2024, the Briley Parkway exit at the Opry was dedicated as the Jeannie Seely Interchange. "To be recognized by the entire state of Tennessee is overwhelming," said Jeannie. "Thank you so much for naming the interchange at the entrance of the Grand Ole Opry in my honor. Hopefully, this will serve as one more sign of welcome to the folks who visit Nashville and support our music industry. I'm so grateful." In September of 2024, Seely's husband, Gene, turned 92 and was recognized by the mayor of Nashville, Fred O'Connell, for his outstanding service to the state of Tennessee and his dedication to public service and leadership in the community. Gene was known for his kindness and his sense of humor. Sadly, Gene Ward passed away December 13, 2024, after a bout with cancer. During the fall of 2024, Jeannie's health also began to decline. She was visiting her home in Pennsylvania when she was hospitalized for diverticulitis and dehydration. She was featured with an article in the January-February 2025 edition of America's Songwriter magazine. On February 2, 2025, Jeannie Seely sang on the Grand Ole Opry one last time. She had the distinction of performing on the Opry more than any other person. That was 5,397 times. On March 1st, 2025, Jeannie was on hand when the Willie Nelson Museum near the Music Valley area by the Opry was rebranded Legends of Country Music Museum. Tess Frizzell, daughter of Shelley West, painted a portrait of Jeannie, and it now resides at the front of the museum. This was Jeannie Seely's final public appearance. She went on to have multiple back surgeries and 2 emergency abdominal surgeries in May of 2025, followed by an 11-day ICU stay and a bout with pneumonia. Her condition continued to deteriorate in the following months. Jeannie Seely died on Friday, August 1st, 2025, while hospitalized at the TriStar Summit Medical Center in Hermitage, Tennessee, for an intestinal infection. She was 85 years old. Her memorial service was held on August 14th at the Grand Ole Opry House. It was called Jeannie Seely's 5,398th Grand Ole Opry Show. The service was broadcast on WSM 650. Jeannie Seely was buried at Spring Hill Cemetery in Nashville. She was dearly loved by her family, friends, and fans, and her Opry family. We will remember her for her rich, soulful voice, her kindness to others, and her immense love for country music. Through decades of dedication, resilience, and unmatched artistry, Jeannie Seely has left an enduring mark on country music. From her Grammy-winning performances to her long-standing role on the Grand Ole Opry stage, she's not only entertained millions, but has also inspired countless artists to follow their dreams. With her signature wit, heartfelt storytelling, and unwavering love for the music she called home, Jeannie continues to embody the very soul of country tradition while paving the way for future generations. Rest in peace, Jeannie Seely. That wraps up this episode of Classic Country Backstories. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for future episodes. And leave a comment, won't you? Until next time, God bless, take care, and I'll see you later.